You're listening to Literacies, conversations about literacies that can change your life. In this 4-part series, we're talking to experts about why media, data, information, and financial literacies are critical skill sets for modern life. Give you a quick dive into what it means, how it impacts you, and things you can do to scale up. This episode is all about data literacy. To talk about data literacy, I'm joined by 3 guests.
Hello, I am KP May, Scholarly Engagement Librarian for Social Sciences and Data at Tulane University Libraries.
Hi, I'm Patrick Button. I am the director of the new Connolly Alexander Institute for Data Science, where we are trying to increase data literacy on campus and especially student research around data.
Hi, my name is Aaron Collada. I'm Associate Professor of Computer Science. I also lead the Center for Community Engaged Artificial Intelligence.
Okay, so let's start at the beginning. What even is data literacy?
There's a lot of different ways you can define that, but I think one way to think of it is sort of like what roles we play with data in our lives. And so one kind of paradigm to think about this is you can think of someone who is a data communicator, a data reader, a data maker, or a data scientist. So what are those? So communicator is someone who needs to be able to tell stories with data. So we have this data, how do I communicate that to a larger audience? So you can think of that skill being required in a lot of situations. You can think of that being important for journalists, be important for people involved in social media. A data reader is someone who's able to sort of interpret data and apply it to their lives. Data makers are going to be people that are sort of actively working with data to try to sort of identify how data can be used to solve real world problems. And then data scientists are someone who has like more technical data skills that can kind of really get into like statistical methods and whatnot. So I think all of these types of people, so communicator, reader, maker, scientist, are really important when it comes to data. And just having one of these skills often isn't enough, and it can be useful to kind of pair these together. We have to kind of think really broadly about data literacy. It's not just, can I, run a regression, or can I put stuff on an Excel spreadsheet? It's sort of a little bit more than that.
Yeah, I think that's well said. I mean, it's a very general concept, right? I mean, it's sort of like, are you an empiricist or not? Like, do you use data to make decisions or not? And if you do, then you need data literacy. I mean, it's embedded in everything. And of course, the emergence of data science and AI has kind of like brought different terminology and different technical aspects to it. But at the end of the day, like, we all have to be kind of a data scientist to operate in this world filled with data.
Yeah, I agree. When I think about data literacy, like defining it as this idea of being able to use data in a way that is meaningful and critical. Being able to use information is something that is every day, like Aaron said, right? Like we all must be able to use data in order to make informed decisions, rational decisions, logical decisions, however you want to categorize it.
How does data literacy impact Tulane students, or any student, or any human at this point?
I think, I guess we'll start with the cynical kind of capitalist view first, and then I'll move to sort of a more interesting, broader view. So I think we recognize that these skills are really valuable for a lot of different types of jobs, right? So students who do get sort of any kind of courses in data, whether that be statistical methods or like science communication or computer science, those skills are very valuable to employers. But even if we think about sort of important societal questions that Tulane students are often thinking about, like how does this issue affect my community? How can I support this nonprofit in New Orleans? I really care about this particular justice issue. Skilling yourself up with data literacy skills can really help you be a lot more effective at achieving those goals. So you can communicate important research. You can use data to drive decisions around how nonprofits spend resources. And so I think that it just gives you a tool set that can be applied more broadly than just I can get job. I think that's why these skills are so useful, is because they're so multifaceted.
I guess I'll bring up the word artificial intelligence. We have to do it at some point, right?
Yes, thank you for breaking the ice.
So a couple of reasons I think it's even more pressing today when you think about how artificial intelligence is changing things. First of all, people are using AI to do data analysis, right? Like automatically. So like you just throw a data set at it and it'll just spit out a bunch of correlations and insights that it's derived from that data. So think about say you're not a data scientist, but you're a manager. Your job is to kind of be a BS detector on what people are sending your way, right? Well, now that BS has just gotten multiplied by like infinity because there's almost no cost to generate more BS. So being able to critically assess the analysis of data is going to be super important for everyone for reasons like that. The second reason I think AI is impacting this is, again, even if you're interested, like you mentioned, nonprofits and societal issues, right? So now AI is being used for things like resume screening or any other important life decision. And you may read in articles like, oh, AI is being used for such and such, and your gut reaction may be, that sounds like a bad idea, right? But how do you actually show that it's a bad idea? Like, what would the data that you would need to audit these systems to ensure they're fair and all that sort of stuff? You need data literacy to be able to do that.
Yeah, I agree. And I will bring it back to this like point of being critical. I'm just a critical person in general, which is why I feel like this works.
You seem so nice.
What? I mean, I am. But what I've noticed, like with the growing popularity of AI in data science as a field of its own, because I feel like data science has like come around in a way where like it's now its own discipline in which it was like embedded in other disciplines before, you know what I mean? But I feel like that excitement is making people very trusting of data. And so I can just tell you, like, even on Facebook, I see so many people sharing statistics because they're statistics. And numbers to people seem factual, right? And so it just makes me think like the importance of being literate in this realm of like big data, data science, AI, is that just like you can always trust what a news article says, you can always trust the statistics that are run on a data set, right? Because there needs to be that human interaction. So in order for us to, like you all have been saying, like using data and these data literacy skills to make meaningful decisions, we must be critical of the information that we're taking in, right? So it's like we're making decisions with data that does not say what we think that it says.
It's a great point. I mean, I think this is such a core piece of data literacy, right? It's not, I mean, the modeling and the statistics is all super important, but like just recognizing that data are just like really weak approximations of reality.
Yeah.
Right? And understanding the nature of that approximation, for examples you brought up, is a key piece of data literacy. So when you see a statistic, you're like, okay, well, where did those numbers come from? And how did they collect that data? And who collected the data, et cetera, et cetera. I think that's crucial. And I know a lot of the CADES courses cover that stuff as well. Right?
Yeah, we're really trying to focus on sort of these broad data skills in the courses that we're gradually rolling out. So we currently offer Data 1010, which is our sort of signature course, Introduction to Data, and that covers a lot of these different data literacy skills. So how to be a data communicator, how to be a data reader, which we kind of talked about, like interpreting data, understanding where it comes from, how to apply it, and then a little bit of data analysis as well. So it kind of covers communicator, reader, maker, scientist. And so we've seen students have sort of really exciting skill sets after just that one course, and they're able to see how they can leverage data in a lot of other contexts. It's also really great to see how they really dive into, okay, so there is a statistic. What does this mean? How is this created? What are the implications of this? And sort of going deeper than just, oh, here's a number and I believe it. And so I think that really helps create just a more literate society in general, given how much data is present everywhere. So it's been exciting to work with the Connolly Alexander Institute for Data Science and roll out these courses.
And then what else can students do? Is there something they should read, something they should watch, something they should listen to, people they should talk to?
I mean, I have to advertise for my own department.
Yeah, please do. Sorry. Please do.
So we, of course, offer many courses related to data. We have a data science minor. We have a data science course. We have courses on artificial intelligence that are, obviously in Patrick's breakdown of the different kind of roles, obviously squarely in the data scientist side of things. So, if you take some CADES classes and you're like, oh, this data thing's pretty cool. Let's, go get a major in it or a minor in it. We have some options there for those students. I think outside of the classroom, though, there's a lot of opportunities, whether that's like, going to a hack night and looking at civic data sources to understand how that can be used in the community, like engaging with people in industry that are doing this currently, right? Like obviously internships and that sort of thing. There's a lot of opportunities outside of the classroom.
Yeah, and I think really broadly, it's not like the only way to take data courses is through the courses offered by CADES. So there's a lot of different data-focused courses broadly at the university. We're working to create a database of that so they're easily searchable. But one thing that's really helpful is sort of whatever your major is, or maybe you're one of those students who has 3 majors. Each of those majors is going to have some kind of data-focused course that you need to take at some point. It's always great to take that earlier because then you have those skills earlier on that you can apply.
KP, what do you recommend people do?
Yeah, so I actually learned how to code in Python using an app on my phone. Well, okay, let me back up a little bit. I was going through some financial trouble, so I'm going to be listening to that financial literacy episode. But this was back in the day, and I was like, man, I need to get a better handle on my finances, but I didn't know. I'm like, I don't want to sit up here and use this Excel spreadsheet to log these numbers, and then there are all these apps that were created. And so I was like, you know what? I am smart. I can write a script, and I can categorize my finances myself. Have I done that yet? No, because I started doing other stuff. So I can't do that now, but I'm now I'm so excited about just all the stuff I can do with Python. But I would say if you're someone who likes to learn on the go, using an app is great. I use Mimo, M-I-M-O. I don't know if it's still around. I don't know when y'all are listening to this. Also YouTube, I feel like as a librarian, especially a university librarian, I'm all about the free stuff. Where's the stuff that I can go to and get the information at my point of need. So there are tons of YouTube tutorials on Python and Python, R, SPSS, things like that. Also, Python and R are open source languages, which means that no one really owns them. They're just out in the ether. So a lot of the information about the languages you can find online, right? So I think that's an important way to skill up. It's finding those free resources as well, because they do exist. And then we also offer workshops at the library in Python. We've done some in R. We've done some using NVivo. We haven't done SPSS. I'm going to leave that to Cades. But we've done some on machine learning. So it's been very interesting, seeing the interest of people. I will say, so far the workshops have been great because even the ones that run over time, it's people stay the whole time. Yeah, and also I do want to do a callback. I don't know if this is appropriate to say after this question, but Aaron, when you said the data is an approximation, that really struck me because when I'm thinking about information overall, whether it's written information text data or numerical information, it is all an approximation, right? And so once we add these, thinking of AI, machine learning, once we add these statistical processes, it's just going to abstract that approximation even more. So you're not really even looking at reality. So how do we stay grounded in where we are and who we are as people while also leveraging the power of these tools?
Yeah, that's a tough question. I think a lot of people are struggling with it. You're right. Every layer we add on top of a shaky foundation of data gets a little shakier each time, right?
Yeah, it does.
So yeah, it's a crazy world out there. I think that's why trying to stay grounded, trying to keep it contextualized with the people that are affected by these things and understanding what goes into these systems. I think that's a topic for a much longer podcast or whatever we're calling this.
Yeah, it is a much longer conversation. Is there anything that you all wanted to say that we haven't covered yet that you think is just really important for folks to know?
Yeah, we hit on all this, but just the focus that it's not necessarily a technical thing. You know what I mean? There's so many. We mentioned design. We mentioned the kind of the community aspect of it. There's so many facets to this that don't be turned off by it because if you're not into the math and algorithm side of things, there's a really rich world here that I encourage you to check out.
I think one thing I'll add is, and I think there's been some discussions of this already, I think getting these skills requires a little bit of your own kind of hustle. So we're definitely at Tulane University, broadly defined, trying to create more opportunities around finding data literacy opportunities, courses, workshops, et cetera. And definitely there's a way to sort of find those skills on your own through apps and other resources, YouTube videos. But we also want to sort of, I think, highlight that we're all people that would love to talk to students about this sort of thing. So if you are ever trying to figure out, well, I'm in this particular area, I'm interested in this topic, how could I learn data skills that could be useful there? I think we're definitely happy to talk to you and see how we can try and make those connections since we're still building up these resources. So it involves a little bit of work on your end, but you should absolutely advocate for yourself and do some explorations. And I think you're going to find a lot of great opportunities.
Y'all, thank you so much. I really appreciate your time and your expertise. This is such a great
This has been fun.
conversation.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thanks.
It was fun.
All right, friends, you've been listening to Literacies, a 4-part audio series. What you just heard was a shorter excerpt from a much longer conversation. To hear the whole conversation, read the transcript, learn more about today's guests, or check out any of the resources mentioned just now, visit our website, libguides.tulane.edu/literacies. This episode was recorded in Howard Tilton Memorial Library at Tulane University using equipment available for anyone in the Tulane community to check out for media services, also located in Howard Tilton Memorial Library. Don't miss our next and final episode, where we'll be talking with Tim Cody and Professor Tony Weiss all about financial literacy. This last episode will drop just in time for graduating seniors at noon on Tuesday, April 8th. To be sure you don't miss it, follow Tulane University's library's YouTube channel and Instagram. Our host for Literacies is Lisa Hooper, our audio engineer and audio producer is Justin Green, and Alan Velasquez is our video producer.